Australian Archbishop convicted of covering up child s.ex a.buse. Newcastle, Australia. An Australian Archbishop on Tuesday became the most senior Roman Catholic cleric in the world convicted of covering up child sex abuse and faces a potential 2 years in prison when he is sentenced next month. Magistrate Robert Stone handed down the verdict against Archbishop of Adelaide Philip Wilson in Newcastle Local Court, north of Sydney, following a magistrate-only trial. Wilson, 67, had pleaded not guilty to concealing a serious crime committed by another person, the sexual abuse of children by pedophile priest James Fletcher in the 1970s. Stone told the court that Wilson had concealed the abuse of 2 altar boys in the Hunter Valley region, north of Sydney, by Fletcher by failing to report the allegations to police. Stone said he was satisfied one of the altar boys, Peter Cray, had been a truthful and reliable witness. Wilson was released on bail until he appears at a sentencing hearing on June 9. Prosecutors will argue for a custodial sentence. In a statement issued by the Catholic Church, Wilson said he was disappointed by the conviction. "I will now have to consider the reasons and consult closely with my lawyers to determine the next steps," he said. Prosecutor Gareth Harrison had submitted that Wilson was involved in a cover-up to protect the church's reputation and there were doubts about his honesty. Harrison argued that in Wilson's mind, victims came second. Wilson, who is suffering from the early stages of Alzheimer's disease but maintains medication has helped his memory, told the court last month during his trial he could not remember Cray and another altar boy telling him in 1976 they were abused by Fletcher. The court has ordered Cray can be named in media reports on his testimony, but the second accuser cannot be named for legal reasons. The prosecution argued Wilson failed to give details to police about a serious crime after Fletcher was arrested in 2004 and went on trial for preying on another boy. Fletcher was found guilty of 9 counts of child sexual abuse and died in prison of a stroke in 2006 while serving an almost 8-year sentence. Defense lawyers had argued Wilson could not be found guilty because the case was circumstantial and there was no evidence to prove the Archbishop was told about the abuse, believed it was true, or remembered being told about it. Defense lawyer Steve Nodgers urged the magistrate to take into account that in the 1970s a priest having sex with a boy was not considered a serious indictable offense, the legal basis for the concealment charge against Wilson. Nodgers told the court the abuse would have been viewed as an act of indecency, not indecent assault, if the victim could not prove he had been forced to perform sex acts. Cray told the court he had trusted Wilson, then an assistant priest, would take action after he told him Fletcher had repeatedly abused him in 1971 when he was 10. Cray testified Wilson had a look of horror on his face when told of the abuse. Cray told the court the clergyman took no action and did not tell police. The defense did not challenge Cray's truthfulness, but raised concerns about the reliability of his memory of what happened in 1976. The other former altar boy said he was about 11 in 1976 when he went to confession and told Wilson that Fletcher had abused him. The witness told the court Wilson refused to believe him because Fletcher was a good bloke. Wilson ordered the boy to get out of the confessional box and say 10 Hail Mary prayers as an act of contrition, the court was told. Wilson testified last month that he had no memory of seeing the second altar boy at all in 1976 and he would never accuse anyone in the confessional of telling lies. Former police detective chief inspector, who had previously made public allegations that the church had covered up Fletcher's crimes, said outside court he was delighted by the verdict because someone in the church was being held to account. "It's a major turning point. It's been very difficult for so many of these witnesses, I can't tell you how difficult it's been," Fox said. More, Catholic Cardinal George Bell of Australia ordered to face trial on sex abuse charges, he pleads not guilty.